Hey, my friend. Tonight we're diving headfirst into the thick, swirling fog of the ancient Celtic lands where a single breath could leave you utterly lost. Picture this. You're standing in the middle of an endless, sprawling field, your cloak soaked through with tiny beads of dew, with only the chilling howl of the wind whispering in your ears. The fog here isn't just weather. It's a living, breathing entity, swallowing every footprint and sound in its path. No compass, no GPS, not even a flashlight, just you, your shaky breath, and those mysterious, trembling stones. You won't make it through the night unless you know their secret. In this video, I'll take you on a journey to uncover how the Celts used ordinary granite or limestone rocks, cleverly placed along winding paths and forest edges, to guide their way through the blinding white mist. The soft, humming rumble when you touch those stones becomes a lifeline, guiding warriors, farmers, and even enigmatic druids safely back home. So, turn off the lights, switch on a fan to create a gentle, buzzing rhythm, and get ready to sink into a slow, richly detailed story, so soothingly dull that you might just drift off before it ends. If you love this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment to let me know. Where are you watching from? Is anyone out there near a place cloaked in thick fog? Let's go. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and imagine you're living in ancient Ireland, around 500 BC. You drape a thick woolen cloak over your shoulders not just for warmth, but because you know the fog will soak every fiber of the fabric. You step out of your thatched hut, and the world vanishes. Your home is gone from sight. The ancient tree in the yard disappears. Even the neighbor's darling milk cow seems to have evaporated. It's just you and a dense, white fog, heavy as a wet wool blanket, wrapping you tightly, dulling every sense. The fog in the Celtic lands isn't merely weather. To them, it's a living force, an invisible enemy you can't pierce or dodge. It silently swirls through valleys, climbs hillsides, and seeps into the cracks of thatched huts. When it arrives, everything paths, trees, animal tracks dissolves. You can't see beyond the reach of your own arm. Imagine the sensation of each step, smiling into the cold air, unsure if you're walking straight or circling aimlessly through a drenched field. Have you ever been lost in a blizzard? That feeling is terrifying enough, but now multiply it tenfold. Celtic fog doesn't just blind you, it smothers sound itself. Your footsteps squelch unevenly in the mud, each squelch echoing like it's bouncing off the walls of an endless cave. The crow of a rooster, the bark of a dog, the distant rush of a waterfall all are swallowed or distorted, leaving you bewildered, wondering, is that ahead of me or behind? The Celts had no compass, no GPS, no smartphone to ping their location. They had no flashlight to light the way, nor glowing streetlights to offer comfort. All they had was instinct and a memory of the landscapa, memory tied to the land, the rivers, and the winds rustling through the grass. But was that enough? The fog could trap them in an endless loop, walking forever without finding an exit, spinning in the mist until exhaustion took over. Tragic tales whispered of farmers vanishing in the fog, or warriors who felt they stood on the edge of a deadly marsh without ever knowing it. Can you imagine the dread as the fog descends at dusk? The faint glow of sunset mixes with the white clouds, creating a disorienting visual chaos. Your eyes strain to adjust, vaguely spotting the shape of a rock is at the lake's edge or a cliff. One misstep, and you could plummet into a chasm or sink into a bog with no escape. This is why fog isn't an enemy you can see, fight, or flee. It's like a natural demon, silent, invisible, yet so terrifying that a single moment of carelessness could cost you your life. The Celts didn't fear mythical monsters. They feared the fog. A monster, at least, could be seen, fought, or evaded. But the fog? It engulfs every sense, leaving you defenseless. Yet, even in their fear, the Celts didn't surrender. They honed other senses, listening and feeling the fog more than seeing it. They learned to hear the squish of mud beneath their feet, knowing whether they were on a hilltop or in a hollow. They noticed shifts in the air's temperature. A fleeting warmth might mean a lake nearby. They recognized the damp, musty scent of moss on rocks, signaling a river or stream close by. And from this fear of fog, they birthed the trembling stones. Ordinary rocks, granite, limestone, whatever was at hand, were placed along paths or forest edges, becoming silent friends. You touch a trembling stone, and it hums a soft rumble, like a whisper from the earth itself, urging you, keep going straight, the village is ahead. That tiny sound is hope, a promise that even if your eyes fail, your hands can still trust. But before we dive deeper into the trembling stones in the next segment, remember this. The fog was the Celts' most fearsome invisible foe. It didn't demand a sword or an iron helm to combat, but rather wit, instinct, and a touch of madness to dare step outside each morning. In the fog-filled nights, the Celts didn't just battle monsters or rival tribes, they fought the very damp air that gripped their minds and bodies. Now, go ahead and smile. Let your eyelids flutter half-closed and feel the gentle warmth of your own breath. Know that, in the 21st century, you have a cozy blanket, a smartphone, a bedside lamp, and, most importantly, dreams untroubled by the ancient fog. Let the Celtic mist echo somewhere in your mind, stirring gratitude for the simple things we have today. And now, if your eyes feel heavy, let the next segment about trembling stones guide you into even wilder adventures, or, at the very least, lull you into a deeply peaceful sleep. After enduring the silent terror of the fog, that invisible foe that once swallowed the footprints and gazes of the Celtsway stepped deeper into their daily lives, where the seemingly mindless mist played the role of director for every activity, from the most mundane tasks to the most ingenious methods of survival. The morning fog spared no one, not even the earliest moments of the day. As the sun barely peeked over the horizon, the mist already hung thick, a blinding white blanket of cotton smothering every path. In this scene, Brant, the diligent farmer we met before, emerges as a living testament to the Celts' humorous and resilient adaptability. From his small thatched hut, he steps out with a canvas sack, not to check directions, but to carry tiny bells he carefully ties to the necks of each sheep. In the fog, his flock transforms into the most effective navigation devices. Each step they take rings out a ting-ting that echoes across the meadows, guiding him to every animal without groping blindly through the white veil. The image of Bran sitting in the field, eyes half closed, listening to the bells fading or drawing nearer, evokes a musician tuning in to the entire landscape. In our modern world, it's hard to imagine a smartphone or GPS being outdone by such simple bells. Thanks to them, Bran only needs to reach out, then slowly shuffle toward the loudest chimes, and soon his sheep gather as flickering white shapes in the mist. Not only does herding take on a strange new form, but Bran's trip to the market becomes a thrilling expedition through a whitewashed maze. The red dirt path from his farm to the village beyond the hill, usually just a few kilometers, now feels endless. With no wooden fences or windmill corners in sight, He must draw the path in his mind using the slope of the ground. Where the mud is wetter, the river is near. Where the earth feels firmer, that's the steep trail leading to the hilltop. At key crossroads, the Celts cleverly place a trembling stone or carve subtle marks on bushes etched in memory. Turn left here for the market, right for home. In the damp chill of the fog, each of Bran's steps is not just physical effort but proof of his ability to read the land, an instinctive sense honed by thousands of Celtic generations. The scent of wet grass, the faint fishy tang of moss clinging to rocks, the rustle of branches brushing together all weave a secret language, understood only by familiar ears and feet. More than once, Bran has found the village's shared well simply by sniffing the damp air around him or feeling faint vibrations underfoot, signaling he's standing atop a stone covering an underground spring. But the harshest times come when the fog refuses to lift, lingering for days, even weeks. The sheep are herded into barns, fieldwork grinds to a halt, and the clean water supply teeters on the edge of shortage. The entire village retreats into warm thatched homes, kindling fires to banish the damp. Winter gatherings by the hearth become rare chances for the Celts to forget their struggles, warming both body and soul. In those moments, the crackle of dry logs, the savory aroma of roasting meat, and tales of triumphs over the thick fog make every hardship seem to melt away. The sundial, their beloved time-keeping toolies, after all, just a decoration when sunlight can't pierce the mist. The Celts devise another way. They bundle dry straw, set it ablaze, and count the crackling pops to mark the hours. Each time the straw nears its end, they know they've lived through another slice of time, like watching Netflix with a 10 minutes left warning. In those simple moments, as the village shares their ancient Netflix straw, a spirit of optimism brims with laughter. And then, the Celts develop their secret weapon-trembling stones. No magic or supernatural power, just ordinary granite or limestone rocks, meticulously chosen and placed along paths, riverbanks, and village entrances. Each stone has its own character, its flat surface angled to produce a rumble that resonates through the air when touched. That sound is a reassurance. You're on the right path, more valuable than any compass. For Bran, the day's final steps often pause at the first trembling stone, his hand brushing it to hear the familiar rumble. Once, in a fog so dense he feared he'd wandered into a marsh. Finding the stone marking the sheep pen's entrance dissolved all his worries. Trembling stones don't just guide, they're silent companions, testaments to community bonds. Every family takes responsibility for checking and cleaning their stone after each rainy season, ensuring the signal never falters. Beyond navigation, trembling stones are historical markers. Each rock tells a story of a market crossroads or a riverbank where ancestors fought. Village children are taught to read this stone memory, touching each one and listening to the earth's whispers. It's like an ancient Instagram, where every post is a trembling stone, preserving the Celts' memories and traditions. Life in the Celtic fog thus becomes extraordinary, both harsh and warmed by community spirit and gentle humor. They don't battle the mist with force but with wit, natural instinct, and love for their humble, trembling stones. For Bran, each day is an adventure, where small sounds the ting-ting of sheep bells, the crackle of burning straw, the rumble of trembling stones blend into a poetic symphony of survival. And so, Celtic life flows on. Amid the enveloping fog, they craft a vibrant culture, bound by values both simple and profound. As night falls, the image of Bran touching the final trembling stone, hearing its rumble resonate, marks the moment when all weariness fades, giving way to a peaceful, Restful sleep, a sleep nurtured by the gentle, yet wondrous tales from the ancient Celtic horizon. As the thick fog still clings to the paths and fields, and Bran has just relied on the ting-ting of his sheep's bells to find his way home, a more refined navigation tool awaits the gentle touch of his hand, the trembling stone. To the untrained eye, they're just ordinary rocksruff, varied in shape, some as large as a shield, others small enough to fit in your palm butt in the Celtic world. Each stone carries an entire soundscape map. The Celts sourced these stones from quarries near their villages, choosing sturdy granite or porous limestone, then skillfully carved flat surfaces and curved edges so that a light stroke would make the surfaces rub together, producing a soft rumble that resonates gently. The sound isn't loud, but in the hushed stillness of the fog, it's like a lighthouse beacon, echoing from one stone to the next, cutting through the damp air, reassuring travelers that they're still on the right path. No written signs, no brightly painted marker-strembling stones rely on memory and community spirit. When placing a stone, the Celts didn't just consider its geographic position. They wove a story in their minds tied to that patch of land. This spot marks the entrance to a sacred forest. That one was the site of a grain-sharing gathering, another a crossroads to the market. These stories were passed down through generations, and each stone became a tiny historical milestone, giving every step meaning through the collective bond. Unlike modern maps, where a single glance reveals the entire journey, using trembling stones required the Celts to truly merge with nature. They had to sense the slope of the path, the scent of damp earth beneath their feet, the rustle of reeds, and only then reach out for the next trembling stone. The stones were placed at fixed interval shaft, a stride apart so that when exhaustion set in, a weary traveler could stretch out a hand, touch the stone, hear the faint rumble, and press forward. At crossroads, 3 stones were arranged in a triangle pointing toward the turn, a silent cue. Left to head home, right to reach the well. During long fog seasons, when wet fields erased all footprints, when storms made trees tremble so fiercely that wind direction became unreadable, the trembling stones stood firm, their sound persisting even when covered in a layer of moss. Each week, the Celts gathered to clean the stone's surfaces, test their sounds, and chat beside them as if with an old friend, sharing tales of struggles in the fields, small triumphs in herding sheep, making the stones not just markers, but witnesses to community life. Touching a trembling stone in the thick fog feels like being embraced by the steadfastness of the land itself. Your hand senses the hidden pulse beneath the earth, the whisper of underground streams, and the faint warmth lingering from dew clinging to the stone's surface. These small sounds remind every Celt that they didn't fight the fog with metal or magic, but with the enduring bond between humanity and nature. Even today, along rural paths by the meadows, you can still find trembling stones now weathered and moss-covered, yet still emitting a faint rumble when someone brushes against them. That echo is a timeless reminder. Though modern technology has replaced compasses and GPS, there remains an enduring value in the wisdom of ancestors who once turned rough rocks into sonic beacons amid the white fog. So, in the dense night and biting cold winds, as you close your eyes to welcome sleep, imagine your hand resting on a trembling stone, listening to its soft rumble like an ancient lullaby, letting the earth's whispers guide you into a peaceful dream, where every fog becomes a thrilling journey of discovery. As the dense fog becomes more than a visual challenge, seeping deep into the very soul, the Celts turned to trembling stones not only for their guiding rumble, but also for the stories woven into them, legends that echo through time, breathing life into a world of spirits rooted in the land. Legend has it that in ancient times, when Druids, the wise shamans of the Celts, roamed the lands of Ireland, they communed with the spirits of earth and water. It's said that the very soul of the stones gifted them the secret of selecting and marking the first trembling stones. The Druids placed these rocks at crossroads, beside streams, or near sacred oaks, as if leaving traces of a vow between humanity and nature. O earth, guide us through the fog. One of the most famous legends revolves around the mythical warrior Cuchulainn, the indomitable hero of the Ulster tribe. During a hunt for his enemy through a suffocating fog, Cuchulainn found himself lost deep in a wild forest. His last arrow spent, his back scraping against a rocky cliff, his eyes blurred with exhaustion and cold. Then he heard a faint, sweet sound, rumble, rumble. Each note echoed like the heartbeat of the earth itself. In that moment, Cuchulainn's mind cleared. His hand found a trembling stone, and he knew which way to go. Thanks to that sacred sound, he not only returned safely but swore before the earth spirit he would protect and maintain the trembling stones for life, ensuring that anyone lost could find their way home. Though Cuchulainn's tale is steeped in myth, the trembling stones were not the work of Druids alone, but the collective effort of entire communities. Every village had a group tasked with arranging and maintaining the stones. They inspected, cleaned, and realigned each rock after harsh winters. The work demanded remarkable patience. Hours spent under drizzling rain, icy winds, hands caked in mud, grinding stone edges to ensure the rumble rang clear when touched. The task could be tedious enough to make anyone want to give up, much like cleaning a cluttered hard drive full of junk files today. No one's thrilled to sift through gigabytes of pointless photos just to find what matters. Yet, in the inescapable fog, those trembling stones saved lives. No one wanted to face the panic of being directionless, nor hear the wind howling through the mist like the cry of the wilderness. Simple as they were, trembling stones were sparks of hope. At critical crossroads, 3 trembling stones were arranged in a triangle. A traveler could touch anyone and hear the rumble resonate, but the stones' relative positions were key. One aligned with the path home, another pointed to the well, the third led to the forest's edge. The maintenance group crafted this sonic code system, built on the village's oral descriptions and memory. Each stone carried a small story. This spot hosted a spring fair. That one saw a peace talk between tribes. Another marked the ferry crossing during flood season. When children were taught to touch their first trembling stone, they didn't just learn navigation, they absorbed history, heroic tales, and the quiet moments that carried the community's spirit. Perhaps you can recall the wonder of a child touching a stone, hearing that first rumble, and giggling with delight, as if uncovering a tiny secret of the world. People may forget the details of a landscape, but trembling stones stood steadfast, silently reminding, every journey has an escape, every step carries the echo of history. As night falls and the fog returns, a gentle brush against a trembling stone lets you feel the strength of a community that built it together. That faint rumble, though small, is enough to soothe fears and plant a sense of safety and connection in the heart. Today, ancient, trembling stones may be cloaked in moss, cracked by time, but when you chance upon one and hear its feeble rumble in the dark, it's as if thousands of Celtic generations are smiling. They once tended these stones together, ensuring anyone passing by could find hope in the earth's whisper. And as you prepare to close your eyes and drift into sleep, Imagine your hand resting on a trembling stone, listening to its rumble like an ancient lullaby of the land. In that quiet moment, all worries seem to dissolve, giving way to peace. No matter how thick the fog, there's an echo to guide you, an invisible bond between humanity and nature, past and present. With myth and reality intertwined, the fog becomes a silent friend, and the trembling stone a guiding light, leading you into a tranquil dream. As the fog still entwines every blade of grass and canopy of leaves, the rumble of trembling stones only rings out when they're placed with precision, like a meticulously composed symphony. Arranging these stones is far from simply stacking rocks. It demands an understanding of material, shape, and terrain, paired with deft hands and remarkable patience. First, the Celts didn't just grab any round or square stone. They selected rocks with a flat surface wide enough for a hand to glide across and a curve distinct enough to produce sound. Each stone underwent a quality test. They tapped it with a slender wooden stick, listening for the resonance. If the sound was merely a faint whisper, the stone was discarded. This process unfolded in the biting chill of foggy air, hands easily numbed, yet no one faltered, knowing that only a clear sound could ensure a traveler heard the earth's whisper amid the sea of mist. Once chosen, the next task was transporting the stones to their designated spots. This was no small feat, as many weighed dozens of kilograms. The Celts used vines or long wooden poles as levers, coordinating in groups to move each stone to its destination without cracking its curved surface. Giggles erupted whenever someone accidentally nudged a stone off course, prompting teammates to shout, "Where's the rumble?" A playful jab, but also a reminder to stay focused. With the stone set in place, the craftsmen began the critical step, adjusting its angle. They propped it with wooden sticks or small pebbles, testing the flat surface with a stroke and tapping the curved edge to hear the sound. A millimeter's shift could make the tone louder or softer, deeper or more resonant. A seasoned craftsman could find the golden position in minutes where the rumble reached its clearest, most vibrant pitch, yet remained gentle enough not to drown out the land's natural sounds. The placement of stones was anything but random. Along paths leading to the village center, stones were spaced about 1.5 strides apart, just close enough for a traveler to touch one without slowing their pace. At crossroads, 3 stones formed a triangle, the point stone indicating the main path forward, the other 2 marking alternate routes. This ensured that even if a lost soul touched only one stone, they could still deduce the correct direction. Along riverbanks, where rushing waters erased footprints, trembling stones were partially buried in loose soil, with only their curved tops exposed. When someone parted the foliage seeking a well, they'd bend down, brush the curved edge, and the rumble would signal fresh water flowing beneath. Anchoring the stones to withstand rain and wind required skill. The Celts compacted the soil, layered moss and dry leaves around the base to stabilize it, and ensured the stone wouldn't shift during heavy downpours. Often, stone arrangers faced harsh weather. During weeks of unrelenting fog, when northwest winds howled and drizzle blanketed the land, they waded through mud, grinding stones under damp skies. Hands wrinkled from cold, they huddled by the stones, scraping until the surface felt just smooth enough. The work seemed tedious enough to drive anyone away, but a moment's carelessness could dull a stone's sound, multiplying the risk of getting lost in the fog. To prevent stones from slipping or toppling, the Celts gave them a foundation of grip. They surrounded the base with smaller pebbles, packed fine ash into crevices to seal gaps, and wrapped wet grass around to create natural friction. This simple yet effective technique helped stones withstand the weight of fog and the force of wind, preserving the rumble at its intended frequency. The final step was a journey test. The arrangers would pretend to be lost travelers, one eye blindfolded, the other closed, groping along the set path. They touched each trembling stone, listening for the crisp, decisive rumble to confirm they were on course. If a stone's sound was too faint or absent, they'd stop, adjust it immediately, knowing that in real life, a single missed note could lead a traveler into a marsh or off a cliff. Beyond technique and makeshift tools, the spirit of community collaboration was the key to success. Every family in the village contributed to the stone arranging effort. Elders shared wisdom, young men hauled stones, women handled cleaning and noting locations, and children were tasked with carrying sound-testing sticks and memorizing the surrounding terrain, a game that was both practical and educational. Few complained, for each trembling stone not only guided the way but also bound people through stories, laughter, and shared sweat in the chilly drizzle. With their masterful stone-arranging techniques, the Celts turned an seemingly insurmountable challenge into something conquerable. They needed no compass, no torch, just a chain of resolute rumbles piercing the fog, guiding steadfast steps back to the warmth of home. As night fell and families settled down, the trembling stones stood silently, quietly safeguarding the community, until dawn's light dispersed the mist, ushering in a new day brimming with hope. Thus, this seemingly dull work not only ensured safety, but also nurtured a spirit of unity and adaptive ingenuity in Celtic life, a testament that sometimes the key to overcoming hardship lies in the simplest things. The fog doesn't merely sting the skin, soak cloaks, or swallow the sight of the Celts. It seeps into the mind, transforming the world into a mysterious stage where each chilly breath feels like a whisper from an unseen realm. As Bran trudges once more across the field, the mist wraps around him like a thick, shapeless quilt, blurring the line between path and meadow. The winds howl through the trees, sounds like murmured words, and he can't help but wonder, is someone watching me from within the fog? In that moment, the Celts truly grasped it. Fog wasn't just a weather condition, it was a fragile boundary between reality and the world of myth. They believed that in the thickest mists, the spirits of ancestors, deep forests, and rivers wandered, searching for peace. The sensation of being watched by invisible entities, of shadowy figures flickering at the edge of vision, could make even the bravest traveler's heart tighten with unease. Bran, through countless restless encounters, learned to distinguish between the natural wind and the sacred wind. Ordinary wind sang softly through the grass, but the sacred wind lingered longer, carrying an eerie hum like the fog's own breath. Whenever that sound arose, his heart skipped a beat, and right then, a trembling stone would meet his fingertips. The rumble rang out, gentle, yet strong enough to banish the loneliness of the milky white night. Touching a trembling stone, Bran would close his eyes for a second, breathe deeply, and feel the pulse of the earth beneath his palm. That sound was a soothing encouragement. You're not lost, you're not alone. It's remarkable how a lifeless rock could become a spiritual companion, powerful enough to calm rising fears. It's like playing a calming melody when stress mounts, a small comfort, but enough to keep you moving forward. Bran wasn't alone in this. Anyone lost in the fog felt the weight on their mind. They spoke of times when, under the densest mist, their own footsteps sounded like a stranger's, making them freeze, heart racing. In those moments, the fog ceased to be harmless. It became the lead character in a psychological adventure, leaving them wondering if an ancestor's spirit stood nearby, or if some ghostly shadow lurked, waiting. Thus, trembling stones became a psychological lifeline, as vital as their practical role in navigation. The Celts didn't just place stones at geographic markers, but also at the most fear-inducing spots, at the base of steep hills, beside dense thickets, or before cave entrances. Each stone was a promise. Anyone who touched it would feel safe, no matter how many eerie whistles, shadows, or mysteries surrounded them. During endless foggy nights, when the village gathered around crackling fires, elders shared with the young the spiritual value of trembling stones. They didn't boast about the precision of stone placement or spacing, but emphasized, "When you hear the rumble, you know you're still held by the community, still cared for by the hands that placed those stones." The rumble became the shared heartbeat of the tribe, reminding each person they were never alone in the vast fog. Bran once shared a story of a boy who, terrified of the fog, refused to leave home. But when his mother led him to the first trembling stone, he brushed it with his fingers and giggled at the rumble. From then on, he no longer feared the mist. Each time it descended, he eagerly ran to the lane, seeking the stone to hear his stone friend speak. This small tale spread quickly, making trembling stones not just guides, but magical allies in the minds of future generations. Fog could strike at any moment when you craved rest or hurried on your way. But for the Celts, each time the mist fell, they carried not only warm woolen cloaks but also faith in the rumble. No matter how opaque the night, their hearts remained steady, like the faint glow of an oil lamp in pitch-black darkness. And now, as you lie cozy in bed, imagine your hand grazing a trembling stone, hearing its rumble echo through the night. You'll feel that, no matter how thick the fog, you're never alone. Sleep comes more gently, more softly after that sound. For in your dreams you'll wander endless Celtic fields, where steadfast trembling stones stand silently, and every step is guided by the earth's whispered song. Good night, and remember, when fog descends, seek the nearest trembling stone. You'll always find your way home in its wondrous rumble. The night has fully settled into winter, the dying fire in the hearth flickering, sending smoke curling around the thatched roof. Outside, the fog still hangs thick, occasionally quivering as if dancing with the wind. Inside the cozy wooden house, the entire Celtic tribe gathers around the fire, the dry wood crackling pop-pop like a soundtrack to ancient yet ever-fresh stories. At the center, the silver-haired elder trusted by all taps his wooden staff, his warm, deep voice rising. "Tonight, I'll recount the legend of the trembling stone that saved our ancestors' lives." The tale begins in the densest fog of winter, when the village seemed on the verge of being swallowed by heavy clouds. Warriors, hunters, women, and children stood frozen by the hearth, eyes fixed on the pitch-black doorway. Suddenly, from out there came a gentle but resolute sound. Rumble, rumble. Touching the first stone at the crossroads, they instantly knew the way home. Even strangers paused, soothed by the rumble, and softly smiled. "Ah, I'm still safe." Trembling stones, in truth, weren't the treasure of any one person or family, but the shared heart of the Celtic community. Each season, as snow melted and fog softened, the village adults divided three key roles: stone arrangers, sound testers, and storytellers. The arrangers roamed the paths, seeking suitable stones flat on one side, curved on the other, then deftly shaped them to produce a resonant rumble. Testers touched each stone, listening to its echo, adjusting angles to ensure the sound carried far yet retained its necessary warmth. The storytellers, like the elder speaking now, passed down to the young the meanings, legends, and lessons tied to each stone. In the thatched house, youths and children listened intently. Every kid eagerly awaited their turn next year to arrange trembling stones. It wasn't just a chance to leave home and connect with nature, but a practical life lesson: how to observe carefully, be patient, and respect each seemingly lifeless stone. During testing, the young learned to press a stick against a stone, using keen ears to catch the rumble, then chimed in with playful remarks. Today's rumble sounds a bit sleepy, needs a slight angle tweak. On quiet evenings, the children clustered by the fire, waiting for the old woman to tell of the life-saving stone of their ancestors. She recounted how, long ago, a family hunting deer got lost in the fog, their youngest daughter nearly tumbling off a cliff. The father rushed to her, but they were utterly disoriented. In despair, the girl touched a trembling stone by a large boulder, heard its rumble, and cried out, "Father, we must go this way." Thanks to that, the family returned safely. The story wasn't just entertainment, it taught the children to find hope in fear, showing that even a humble stone could be a savior. Every tale was steeped in community. On the first stone-arranging day of spring, the village women prepared oatcakes and cups of cider to fuel the workers. Men brought ropes and shovels, while children carried small wooden sticks. They split into teams, placing stones at key markers: crossroads, riverbanks, the sacred old oak. After setting each stone, the arrangers scratched a small mark on a nearby tree trunk, signaling the spot for testers. At dusk, all gathered around the new trembling stone, checking its sound, chatting, and laughing. Despite biting winds or splattered mud, no one complained. They knew this work was vital to the community's safety. Trembling stones also bound the tribe together. During spring festivals, amid dancing and booming drums, a special ritual unfolded. Stones were stacked into a rumble pillar where people could touch, hear the rumble, and wish for good fortune in the new year. They believed a long, clear rumble foretold a bountiful harvest, thriving livestock, and good health. A weak sound, however, prompted immediate checks and adjustments before the next fog arrived. Beyond ceremony, trembling stones became an educational tradition. Parents led children to the nearest stone, saying, "Touch it and see if the rumble sounds smooth." When a child struggled to hear, parents explained, "Place your hand lightly, glide along the flat surface, keep your fingers warm, and you'll hear it fully." Through this, children learned patience, precision, and observation. Each trembling stone was a heritage lesson. Much like how every culture has heirloom recipes, trembling stones were the Celts' legacy. As the night grew thick and fog blanketed the village, adults swapped humorous tales of trembling stone hunts gone wrong. Once, a newlywed youth accidentally placed a stone backward, turning the rumble into a hiccup. The village roared with laughter at the retelling, but from then on, he became a master stone arranger, his stories growing ever sharper. Such tales entertained while reinforcing everyone's sense of duty and connection. As the fire dwindled, each family retreated to their corner, hearts lightened by the knowledge they were guarded by a powerful network of rumbles. Children drifted off, dreaming of trembling stones guiding them through fog, while elders smiled with satisfaction. Tomorrow, no matter how thick the mist, we'll step out with confidence. Thanks to this communal spirit, the Celts not only survived the daunting fog, but preserved their culture, traditions, and deeply human stories. Trembling stones became a symbol of connection between past and future, between lone individuals and collective strength. Now, picture the Celtic tribe gathered by the fire, their laughter ringing out, the rumble echoing beyond. Try touching your bedside table, as if it's a trembling stone, and hear its soothing rumble, you'll feel an invisible bond between ancient Celtic hearts and your own, no matter where you are. Your sleep will come gently, peacefully, cradled by the tale of trembling stones and the resilient Celtic community. Good night, and see you in the next segment about epic battles using trembling stones as a cunning strategic key. Beneath the dense veil of fog, everything turns ethereal. Grass, paths, even the silhouettes of comrades dissolve into a cotton, white haze. For the Celts, fog wasn't just a challenge for shepherds or farmers, it could utterly transform the battlefield. The fiercest warriors, who once dominated fields and hilltops, suddenly faced an invisible foe, the enveloping mist, numbing every sense. Imagine yourself as a Celtic warrior, a woolen cloak draped over your shoulders, gripping an iron-tipped spear. Before you lies only a blinding white fog, not a single blade of dry grass in sight. The only sound reaching your ears is the wind rustling through leaves, mingling with distant shouts echoing in the void. Each step feels like probing an endless maze, and a single misstep could cost your life if you stumble into a muddy pit or rocky crevice. In such a setting, battle becomes a duel with nature itself, where combat skills pale beside the art of surviving a tempestuous terrain. This is where trembling stones proved invaluable. Beyond guiding villagers safely home after a day's work, these special rocks were strategically placed by commanders at critical points: valley entrances, steep slopes, beside ancient tree spots often cloaked in the thickest fog. When a warrior frantically scanned for direction, a light touch on the stone's surface and the rumble that followed were enough to confirm they were on the right path. Amid clashing weapons and white-shrouded fog, trembling stones also served as a sonic radio. Warriors tied leather cords around smaller stones, creating a chain of rumble calls to signal retreat or summon reserves. For an attack, they'd pull a stone from the chain, touch it, and hurl it toward the target. The echo upon impact signaled the moment to strike. This method rivaled modern tech, maintaining the silence needed for surprise while relaying orders across the unit. Celtic warriors also knew fog wasn't always an ally. In overly thick mist, even trembling stones' sounds dulled, signals fading. They timed their use of fog, striking when it thickened just enough, retreating to safety when it grew too dense, waiting for it to thin before resuming. Each campaign was fluid, unbound by fixed lines, adapting plans based on fog density and sound signal clarity. One famed commander, Conall mac Cuchulainn, a descendant of the legendary Cuchulainn, mastered swift fog tactics. He once led troops through an old path during peak fog, placing temporary trembling stones to guide his army up a hill. There, he scratched markers on the ground with a wooden staff, pairing them with rumbles to muster forces into a surprise encirclement. The enemy, unable to discern reality from illusion, fled in panic. After the battle, Conall diligently maintained the stones, crediting them as the savior that proved their worth again. Fog and trembling stones also enabled bizarre traps. The Celts dug concealed pits covered with leaves and grass, leaving a trembling stone exposed near the edge. Enemies, drawn by the sound, stepped forward to touch the stone, only to teeter on the brink of the trap. This required finesse. The stone had to be set at just the right depth, rumbling when touched but positioned so a misstep wouldn't find solid ground. Dubbed the sound trap, it turned battles into a cunning game between man and nature. These tactics reveal that, for the Celts, each trembling stone was more than a marker, it was an invisible strategic weapon. Fog, when deftly paired with the rumble, could be ally or foe, depending on its use. The Celtic battlefield wasn't just a clash of swords, but a realm of sound and shadow, where survival wit shone brightest. Now, having followed the journey from farmers heating sheep bells to warriors wielding trembling stones in battle, stay tuned for the next segment, where we'll explore how the Celts wove trembling stones into spiritual rituals, bridging the tangible and mystical worlds. As autumn fog begins to coil around ancient trees, blanketing valleys, the distant hills turn more mysterious than ever. The Celts, deeply attuned to nature and reverent of all its forms, saw trembling stones not only as guides, but as conduits to the unseen world. On full moon nights, when silver light pierced the canopy, glinting off dew-soaked rocks, the Celtic tribe gathered at a sacred site often, a hallowed grove, where a massive stone outcrop served as an altar of the earth. Forming a circle around the central trembling stone, they marveled at the rustic yet majestic blocks, finely honed by skilled hands. Druids, the wise mediators between the living and the earth spirits, stood on a carpet of grass beneath the stone, holding a sacred branch tied with red ribbon symbolizing ancestral blood and life. A chant rose, its deep, warm tones like the wind's murmur. The damp air carried the scent of incense from sandalwood and patchouli, smoke swirling into the fog. At that moment, the druid gently tapped a wooden stick on the central trembling stone, releasing a rumble, rumble, that echoed through the clearing. The sound resonated like the earth's reply, bouncing off moss-covered trees, reaching the ears of men, women, young, and old in the tribe. Each tap on the stone was paired with a whispered prayer or plea to the spirits, forest, fog, rain, and earth. The rumble signaled that the message had been received. Druids believed each echo was an invisible thread binding human souls to the earth spirit, weaving a web of trust across realms. With every tap, they prayed for bountiful harvests, healthy livestock, and a sonic map to guide those lost in the fog. Village children were allowed to observe the ritual, learning to discern the difference between the trembling stone's sound on a quiet night versus a busy day. The Druids taught, the nighttime rumble is a spiritual signal, carrying a sacred mission. By day, it's merely a geographic marker. This instilled in the young a respect for the distinction between the stone's everyday and ceremonial roles. Beyond tapping, grand ceremonies included the stroking of the trembling stone. A druid, or a chosen member, would gently place both hands on the stone's flat surface, eyes closed, warming the cold rock with their touch. They believed this act infused the earth spirit with human vitality, causing the stone to hum with an inner rumble. When they lifted their hands, the stone seemed to resonate louder, like a harp's echo from deep within the earth, signaling the spirit's approval. The ritual didn't rely on a single stone. The Celts arranged smaller, trembling stones in a circle or horizontal line before the central area. Each stone marked a ritual phase. The first signaled the chant's start, the second shifted to harvest prayers, the third invoked health, and the last was a plea for ancestors' peace. The proceedings were solemn, yet warm, as participants felt a deep bond with each other and the natural spirits. Candles flickered beside the stones, their faint glow reflecting on the damp surfaces, creating a scene both eerie and beautiful. The ceaseless chanting, interwoven with the rumble, blended into a sacred song that lifted spirits, cleansing worldly worries. As the ceremony ended, the Druids struck a final, resounding rumble, signaling the gateway of spirits had closed, messages delivered, and ancestral souls returned to eternity. Afterward, the tribe gathered by a fire, sipping cider and eating honey-sweet cakes studded with wild berries. They shared the warmth that spread from the rumble. Stories of the night's ritual rippled through the forest, sparking lively chatter. Giggles erupted when someone swore they'd heard a tiny spirit's whisper or felt an invisible hand on their shoulder near a trembling stone. A key ritual task was documenting the stone's positions and sounds. Druids and scribes used dried bark, stitched with red thread, to note each stone's relative coordinates, sound intensity, and time of day. This record, carefully preserved, became a precious heirloom for future generations. Thanks to these notes, even when the tribe migrated to new lands, they could recreate the rituals, placing trembling stones per tradition, maintaining their sacred bond with ancestors. Trembling stones also featured in naming ceremonies for newborns. When a baby's first cry echoed in a thatched hut, a druid brought a small trembling stone to place near the cradle, tapping it to produce a rumble. They believed this sound blessed the child with a safe life, always finding a path through challenges, just as their ancestors navigated fog. Tribal dancers crafted the rumble dance around the stones. They wore leather cords with tiny stones tied to their wrists, each hand movement clinking the stones to produce rhythmic rumbles. More than art, the dance symbolized, when humans and earth dance together, life resonates like the eternal rumble. The ceremony's close was reserved for shared reflections. Sitting in a circle, people described their experiences. Some felt an unusual warmth, others heard what sounded like a nightingale's call in the fog. Some found their minds eased, fears soothed. Through these exchanges, trembling stones became an invisible thread, linking emotions, experiences, and faith across the community. As the ritual ended, silence returned, fog still thick, but each Celt carried a steady spiritual flame within. They knew that no matter how dense the mist or how rough life became, the rumble of trembling stones would echo as a protective, guiding, comforting whisper. Before we reach the final segment, where we'll sum up the wondrous journey of trembling stones and explore how their legacy endures in modern knowledge, let the rumble resonate once more in your mind. A reminder that nature and humanity are forever entwined, co-creating a story spanning millennia. When the fog blankets the entire landscape, it spares no onen either farmer nor warrior, elder nor child. Anyone who steps into that white veil risks becoming its victim. Heart-wrenching stories have etched themselves into the collective memory of the Celtic tribe, reminding generations that fog is not a gift but the harshest trial of their land. Once, a mother named Enid scoured the fields for her lost young daughter. In the dense fog, the girl's faint cry of "Mother" faded into the white void. Enid followed the rumble of trembling stones, thinking they'd lead her home, but each stone seemed to pull her deeper into confusion. The stones placed in last season's wheat field had been moved for the new planting. The fog pulsed as if alive, briefly revealing a small figure's shadow, only to swallow that innocent face moments later. In the end, Enid found her daughter's mud-soaked woolen cloak near a mound, but her child was gone forever. Enid's tale became a warning. Never underestimate the fog. It can steal everything in an instant. Meanwhile, the warrior Finn, returning from a brutal skirmish, longed to touch a trembling stone for guidance. But this fog was so thick that the rumble sounded like a faint echo, too weak to reassure him. Hands trembling from exhaustion and cold, Finn lost track of the stones he'd placed earlier, circling a small forest until he collapsed. The next morning, he was found slumped by an ancient oak, head bowed in the sodden mud, still alive, but he never again dared venture beyond the village's shadow. Finn's story testified to the power of trembling stones, yet also showed they couldn't conquer every circumstance. Not only adults bore these tales. 6-year-old Lan heard her mother speak of her grandmother, who vanished in the fog while gathering medicinal herbs. Seeking a rare plant to heal her husband, she left without marking her path with trembling stones. The village searched tirelessly, finding only her herb basket nestled in moss, with no trace of her. Each night, Lan closed her eyes, picturing her mother's stories, hearing the rumble in her dreams, and waking in tears, gripped by fear. Such stories weren't just tragedies, they carried a profound lesson. When fog blankets the land, no one can afford to grow complacent with trembling stones. A moment's negligence could mean eternal loss. Through countless sorrows, the Celts chose not to curse the fog, but to respect and coexist with it. They understood that fog wasn't an enemy to defeat outright, but a force to comprehend. Trembling stones, though not infallible in every situation, stood as proof of their resilience not because they claimed victory over nature, but because they enabled adaptation and survival. The stones may not have helped Enid find her daughter or guided Finn home unscathed, but the tribe's devotion to them kept despair at bay. Day by day, the Celts taught their children about fog. When it begins to gather, brace your mind, carry a wooden stick to test stones, wear a warm woolen cloak, and sturdy leather boots. They reminded each other, don't let a bright scarf cloud your focus. Let the rumble awaken your survival instincts. On damp, misty mornings, children giggled as they practiced placing trembling stones along their home's path, learning to tap them with sticks and discern loud or faint sounds. It wasn't just play, it was vital preparation for surviving the fog. This humble attitude ensured the fog didn't wholly devastate their lives. They wove the rumble with natural cues, damp earth scents, bird calls, wind direction, creating a layered safety system. Each time fog descended, the tribe united to reset trembling stones, clean surrounding trees, and test signals. They worked together, tending each stone, debating placements. Thus, fog became a communal challenge, not a lonely void. The scars of tragedy and hard-earned lessons shaped the Celts' rich tapestry of rituals and traditions. Fog ceased to be something merely to avoid, it forged their character, patient, inventive, and beautiful in endurance. They wrote the saga of fog and trembling stones with every rock, oral tale, and tear shed over loss. These stories, though sorrowful, sowed seeds of hope and steadfastness in every Celtic heart. Now, as we touch the final trembling stone in this storytelling chain, let's prepare for the concluding segment where we'll reflect on the legacy of trembling stones, retrace the Celts' resilient journey, and ponder the enduring value they left for future generations. There, we'll explore how these stones were more than mere guides. They became immortal symbols of perseverance, communal unity, and the truth that, no matter how thick the fog, humanity can always find a spark of hope in the White Sea. When fog ensnared countless souls, trapping them in tragedy's web, trembling stones rang out like echoes of collective memory, preserving unforgettable lives and events. We've witnessed the fog's ferocity, from a mother searching for her lost child to a weary warrior losing his way. It spared no one. Now, let's delve into the role of trembling stones as the Celts' living archive, where each stone did more than guide. It etched sorrow, triumph, and sacred rituals into the land, enabling the Celts to forge and share a collective memory that rose above nature's tragedies. With their unique design, trembling stones held value far beyond navigation. They were the land's history carved in rock. The Celts, without written records for major events, entrusted everything to personal memory and natural markers. In a harsh fog that stole lives and tested spirits, Trembling stones served as an external data storage system. Anyone passing by could touch them, hear the rumble, and instantly recall the event tied to that spot. Take the crossroads to the autumn market where Enid searched for her daughter and met heartbreaking loss. The trembling stone there carries her story of grief. At night, elders recount to the young the tale of the mud-soaked woolen cloak, the stone's rumble echoing from the hillside as a reminder. Never underestimate the fog. When new generations touch that stone, they don't just find their way, they connect with their tribe's shared pain, grasping the duty to prevent such tragedies. By the river where Finn nearly perished, the warrior returning frozen and exhausted from battling small trembling stone recalls the fight and the need for vigilance. The Celts called it the awakening stone. Touching it conjures Finn's sweat, his ragged breaths, and the terror of stones failing to sound clearly. This teaches later generations that fog isn't just a physical challenge but a disease of disorientation that can paralyze the mind. Beneath the sacred oak site of spring rituals, the trembling stone is a spiritual journal. Its rumble in the fog evokes sacred ceremonies, unity, and faith in nature's cycle of life and death. Young Celts were taught to distinguish the ritual rumble, blended with chants, from the everyday rumble tapped for navigation. This preserved memories distinctly, embedding them vividly in the mind. Naming ceremonies for newborns using trembling stones also showed their role in preserving personal memories within a collective framework. When a druid placed a small stone by a cradle and tapped it, the rumble marked not just a new soul's arrival, but the community's blessing. You are the sprout carrying our traditions. That stone, though personal, could be touched by anyone in the village, even if the child grew and left serving as an eternal reminder of roots and the duty to uphold collective memory. On battlefield trails, trembling stones didn't just record ambushes or troop movements, but captured the chaos of facing fog. Dubbed clarity stones, touching them recalled initial orders, lessons on using fog as a shield, and the dread of brief, brutal clashes. These memories prevented recurring fear, empowering warriors to adapt and turn tragedy into tactical opportunity. The common thread in these stories is this: trembling stones never let people forget. In blinding fog, anyone trusting the stones drew strength from shared history. This blend of tragic, triumphant, and sacred memories transformed trembling stones into a living symbol of the Celtic community, resilient in adversity, bonded in sorrow, and steadfast amid trials. The stones were maintained and reinforced across generations. Elders told stories, youths refined curved edges, children learned to hear the rumble. Each retelling strengthened collective memory. Over time, as civilizations shifted and technology advanced, the Celts believed no app or digital map could rival the experience-rich trembling stone. It stored not just coordinates but the soul of their people. As you, a modern Western listener, settle down for sleep, think of the first trembling stone you touched. Its rumble may not sound in the quiet night, but the resonance of collective memory follows you into dreams. Like Instagram saves everyday moments with hashtags, trembling stones preserved sacred instants with wordless rumbles, a timeless storage method, etching the invisible bond between humanity and the harsh fog that tested them. In our final segment, we'll explore how the trembling stone's legacy is reignited in the digital age, where technology and spirituality intertwine, letting collective memory stretch through every fog. Beneath the thick fog cloaking the hillsides, the Celts didn't flinch before nature's invisible challenge. They realized that beyond relying on trembling stones to mark paths, Countless creative methods born from keen environmental observation and communal collaboration could guide them. Through this, they crafted a unique survival system, where every mark on the land bore the ingenuity and wisdom of their ancestors. First, delicate carvings on tree bark served as temporary maps in the wilderness. Entering a dense forest, a traveler needed only to spot a carved arrow, a horizontal line, or a simple circle etched skillfully onto the thick bark of oak or ashto, know the exact direction to follow. Each carving was sealed with tree sap to resist rain and wind, clear enough for a wayfarer to notice yet subtle enough to avoid attracting predators. This bark map system allowed the Celts to venture deep into ancient forests without fear of losing their way, even when fog cast a hazy white veil before their eyes. Alongside carvings, tying bright fabric or wool to branches proved surprisingly effective. Red, yellow, green scraps leftovers from weaving cloaks were knotted into slender, vivid ribbons that stood out against the green leaves and silvery fog. In thick mist, a glimpse of these faintly glowing colors helped travelers identify established paths, quick to implement and highly visible when stones or carvings were obscured. This method shone in emergencies. Tales recount a hunting party nearly panicking in dense fog, only to spot a red wool ribbon dangling overhead, instantly reorienting them to safely return with their deer. The Celts even turned folk songs into a form of musical GPS. Before stepping into the fog, they sang a distinctive tune divided into 6 verses, each tied to a leg of the journey. Reaching the 3rd verse signaled they'd passed the halfway mark. The 5th meant the water's edge was near. The song's melody warmed the traveler's heart and created a robust sound signal, allowing group members to locate each other. This kept them synchronized without scattering. This art of song-guided navigation transformed traditional music into a survival tool, guiding them home even when their eyes saw nothing but mist. Beyond carvings, ribbons, and songs, the Celts masterfully used vivid oral descriptions as an extra layer of protection. When elders led the young, they didn't just point to the next trembling stone but recounted the hoofprint of a stray deer, the green moss on a tree facing the stream, or a cracked boulder marking an old battle. These rich images lodged in the mind, so when fog blanketed the land, listeners could match natural signs to the stories and pinpoint their location. This oral imagery spread collective memory swiftly, ensuring even newborns could navigate confidently as they grew. By seamlessly blending these method-trembling stones, bark carvings, tied ribbons, guiding songs, and vivid descriptions, the Celts built a multi-layered signal system, avoiding reliance on any single tool. When stones were buried in mud, ribbons faded, or songs grew faint, carvings and mental images stood ready to guide. This was the fruit of relentless creativity, sparked by the need to survive harsh fog. Bran, like many young warriors, joined fog drills led by druids. Split into small groups and half blindfolded, they relied on this ancient signal system to reach a hilltop or riverbank. These grueling sessions honed individual skills and cemented communal bonds. In the biting fog, they carved bark, retied ribbons, sang guiding tunes, and shared vivid descriptions. Each person was an essential link in the survival chain. The Celts' ingenuity in fog didn't stop at individuals or small groups. It permeated their enduring culture. Guiding songs evolved into festival folk tunes, bark carvings became preserved historical relics, and tied ribbons featured in harvest rituals. Over time, these markers transcended mere survival tools, becoming a spiritual legacy, blending practicality and cultural value. Today, with digital technology reigning, we're accustomed to GPS and electronic compasses. But imagine being lost in a primal forest. GPS signal gone. Could the Celt skills save you? Carving bark, tying a cloth to a branch, or humming a guiding folk tune. isn't just nostalgia, it's proof of humanity's adaptability in dire straits. In their lack of advanced tools, the Celts showcased true survival wit. Unbound by technology, they used the environment earth, stone, trees, wind, and music to chart their course. Fog, once an invisible foe, became inspiration to innovate, turning hardship into a stage for communal resilience. Like trembling stones that forged an immortal collective memory, bark carvings, tied ribbons, and folk songs echo as reminders of persistent creativity. Amid the white sea, the Celts found answers not just through physical strength but through finesse, skill, and courage to face challenges. These innovations crafted a multi-dimensional map not only guiding paths but preserving stories, lives, and the indomitable spirit of an ancient civilization. As the rumble of a stone rings again through the fog, remember that behind it lies a brilliant signal system, woven from stone, tree, cloth, and songle converging to guide humanity to safety, home, and the spiritual legacy their ancestors forged in their fog-bound journey. In the next segment, we'll explore how this legacy has spread and flourished in the modern world, where technology and tradition blend, creating a future both fresh and steeped in the past's inspiration. As Roman roads spread across Ireland and Scotland, the ancient Celtic paths were gradually replaced by sturdy stone-paved routes, lit by Roman torches and trodden by soldiers' boots. This new network brought horse carts, ox wagons, and even war chariots into the heart of Europe, reshaping notions of space and time. Fog, once a daunting challenge that made any traveler wary, lost some of its power as stone houses, drainage channels, and roadside rest stations emerged. The sight of fog-drenched dawns became less of a daily fear, as new architecture and engineering partly supplanted nature's role in protection and guidance. Under Christianity's influence, the Druidic rituals tied to trembling stones faded. New churches rose, their bells ringing out where chants once echoed beside trembling stones, and priests replaced druids as intermediaries between humanity and the unseen. Candlelit ceremonies, hymns, and sermons overshadowed the wooden sticks tap on stone in the fog. Trembling stones, once central to native beliefs, grew out of place, sidelined from communal rituals. As younger generations drifted from Druidic tales, the stones ceased to be spiritual anchors, becoming mere fragments of forgotten memory in village corners. Yet not every trembling stone vanished entirely. In remote regions, untouched by Roman roads, where forests remained dense and fog clung stubbornly to valleys, trembling stones endured as relics of a resilient civilization. When curious explorers wander into misty village outskirts, they might stumble upon a small moss-covered stone. Pressing a hand to its carved surface, they hear a faint rumble, like an ancestral whisper echoing back. In a world of smartphones and GPS, this act feels sacred, touching the past, reviving ancient sounds, and wondering what kept that stone alive today. To archaeologists, finding a trembling stone isn't just uncovering an artifact, it's unlocking a trove of collective memory. As they brush soft earth beneath forest trees, tools gently reveal the stone's weathered grooves and edges. Fingers test the curved surface, listening to the somber rumble, a sound holding the steps of warriors, a mother's lullaby, children's laughter in the fog. They record the stone's coordinates, noting its alignment and resonance, as if reconstructing the Celts' knowledge map. Each excavation reveals more about ancient paths, daily rituals, and a culture's tenacious survival through centuries of fog. In the digital age, trembling stones have been digitized in creative ways. Irish museums host 3D exhibits, recreating stones through stereolithographic printing paired with simulated rumble sounds from archaeological data. Visitors don VR headsets, touch models, and hear the echo, feeling the breath of ancient fog. Community art projects encourage locals to photograph stones in the wild, tagging them on Instagram with number Echo of Runestone, bringing these relics from deep mountains to the vast digital world. Yet technology is merely a tool. The true value lies in the rumble resonating through hands and hearts. Imagine crossing a dry autumn field, fog shifting thick to thin, and brushing against a trembling stone nestled by a tree's roots. Its faint rumble whispers, "Remember me." In that moment, you're no longer a stranger but part of a millennia. Long story, each stone, a living page of history. The rumble doesn't just guide, it connects you to the Celts' wealth of experience, from fog, born fears, to relentless creativity. In a modern world of skyscrapers and blazing LEDs, trembling stones remind us of the value of small, enduring things. A simple rock can outlast time, preserving a rumble like a humble yet profound melody. It shows that, despite societal shifts and rapid tech advances, there's still room for natural wisdom, empathy with nature, and collective memory. Trembling stones stand silently across fields and forests, proving that even as the world changes, the ancestors' first footprints remain intact beneath the fog. As night's fog returns in your imagination, listen for the distant rumble, like a Celtic song echoing through layers of space and time. It's a reminder of perseverance, survival's hunger, and ceaseless creativity, all captured in a small, mighty stone. In our final segment, we'll explore how this rumble legacy ripples into modern life, inspiring new stories and keeping ancient memories immortal. You don't always need weapons or magic to overcome challenges, and the humble, trembling stones taught the Celts this lesson millennia ago. Amid the icy fog, they didn't curse nature or seek to dominate it with force. Instead, they observed, listened, and harnessed the tiniest details to survive. The rumble that sounded when fingers brushed a stone's edge became a vivid testament to the power of simplicity, a signal just strong enough to guide the journey, even through fog-laden paths. In our modern rush for technology, we often chase quick fixes with complex apps or arcane technical jargon. The Celts, by contrast, used rough stones to create sonic beacons. The stones didn't need uniform size or material. Granite, sandstone, or limestone all worked, yet with a few carved strokes and cleverly angled edges, each could emit a resonant sound in the fog. Even when freezing winds numbed fingertips, the rumble remained warm enough to point the way. They learned that in adversity, you don't need grandeur, just practicality and resilience. Trembling stones also taught patience and the value of waiting. Arranging them required time and persistence, testing dozens of rocks to find the right one, adjusting angles by hand, securing them in muddy ground. A slight slip could silence a stone, and retuning the sound sometimes took hours in the fog. This repetitive, seemingly tedious work forged resilience, staying steady step by step, embracing temporary setbacks for lasting results. Yet trembling stones weren't the only tool. The Celts' survival system included bark carvings, tied wool ribbons, and even folk songs to mark routes. Each method showcased creativity and scarcity. Arrow and circle carvings on trees acted as bark maps. Red or green ribbons glowed through fog like guiding flags, and distinct melodies served as musical GPS. With a diverse toolkit, even if one method failed, stones buried in mud, ribbons tangled in leaves, songs too faint their signals kept the journey alive. This taught flexibility. Never pin all hope on one tool but blend multiple approaches. This adaptability holds lessons for today. Don't rely on a single solution. In a tense meeting, you might use a note-taking app, consult a colleague, or scribble on a coffee-stained paper map. Whatever fits the moment can lead you forward. Creativity and constraint unlocks unique problem-solving potential. Community was another cornerstone. Arranging and testing trembling stones wasn't a solo task, but a village effort. Elders shared wisdom, youths hauled stones and checked sounds. Children learned to hear the rumble. In the fog, each stone linked smaller circles, mother and child, warrior brothers, teammates. For someone lost, the sonic signal didn't just guide home, it carried the community's faith. You're not alone. Someone's watching and waiting. This spirit of collaboration resonates now. No matter how skilled you are, you need colleagues' support, mentors' insights, teammates' encouragement. In tough times, a kind word or small suggestion can save you from a dead end, like a trembling stone in a sea of fog. Success is inseparable from collective effort. Moreover, trembling stones were a collective memory bank, preserving ancestral stories. Each stone etched battles, summer festivals, market crossroads, or moonlit rituals. Touching one, young Celts navigated while recalling history. Elders' tales sprang to life, ancient events unfolding like a vivid documentary. This was how they preserved culture without writing. Today, in our digital age, we can learn to capture memories not just on social media, but through real experiences, films, or storytelling to pass lasting values to future generations. Looking further, trembling stones taught environmental respect. The Celts didn't raise forests or use permanent paints. They worked with natural material: stone, tree sap, scrap cloth for signals. Carvings and ribbons naturally degraded, honoring the life cycle of plants and rocks. This green approach laid a foundation for sustainable living, using available resources, recycling materials, leaving no lasting footprint. Amid today's pollution and climate change, this reverence for nature remains vital. Fog and trembling stones shaped the Celts' gentle yet steadfast philosophy. They didn't overpower adversity, but turned it into opportunity. They accepted challenges without letting them crush their spirit. The dense fog didn't sow panic but spurred innovation. Trembling stones didn't just guide, they reminded of patience and community. Life isn't a sprint, but a long journey with trials, where the stones rumble urges us to take small, steady steps. As night falls and a breeze stirs the leaves, imagine touching your modern trembling stone, carving a mark in a notebook, tying a ribbon to a garden tree, or humming a tune to mark a moment. These simple acts become priceless tools, helping you navigate the fog within confusion, anxiety, uncertainty. The Celts' trembling stones echo through time, reminding us, sometimes the smallest things unlock survival and growth. The legacy of the Celts isn't found in grand monuments or mighty kingdoms, but in their resilient spirit that pierced through history's thick fog. When mist-shrouded valleys and sheep wandered like ghosts, they didn't surrender. They used their wit and hands to place humble yet powerful trembling stones. Over centuries, only weathered rocks remain, standing silently by pathsides like quiet sentinels guarding their stories. Imagine strolling through a wild Irish field. The late-day sun casts a faint orange glow, fog clinging to every reed. By the path's edge, a moss-covered granite trembling stone appears, its edges worn but still whispering a gentle rumble in the hushed air. This isn't the legacy of empires or victories, but of ordinary people living in harmony with nature. Steadfast in hardship, the Celts left us a priceless treasure, the art of relentless adaptation and creativity. They built no opulent temples, instead deftly using what was at hand: stones, wood, scrap clotho craft a survival system. Touching an ancient trembling stone, you feel the collective effort of generations who selected, shaped, and placed it to ensure the rumble sounded just right. Each stone testifies to their meticulous care. No detail, however small, was overlooked, for a single lost sound could mean a lost soul. This spirit echoes in our modern lives. Facing crises, be it a flood of deadlines or sudden upheaval, we often seek grand solutions, management software, elite courses, cutting-edge tech. But the trembling stone reminds us that sometimes a small signal, a sticky note on a screen, a quick team huddle, a daily calendar flip can guide us through the fog of the mind. Trembling stones demanded communal unity, as no one could arrange them alone. Roles were shared. Elders passed down knowledge, youths hauled stones and tested sounds, children learned to hear the rumble. This process forged unbreakable bonds, as they knew every step had to be perfect for the rumble to ring true. This collaborative spirit is the Celts' greatest legacy, teaching us that even the simplest achievements stem from collective effort. Walking a gravel path in a Scottish village, you might stumble upon trembling stones by the grass. A light touch releases their rumble, a whisper from the past saying, "Don't give up." It's not a heroic sound, but it's enough to spur weary steps, like a straw saving a drowning soul. The Celts also learned to respect the fog, not as a sole enemy. Instead of fleeing, they wove it into rituals, military tactics, and millennia-old tales. Far from destroying their legacy, fog fueled their legend. The surviving trembling stones are vivid fragments, showing that despite time's erosion or hardship's bite, a community's spirit endures. Today, scrolling social media, you'll see hashtags like #DoNotGiveUp or #YouAreNotAlone. These simple encouragements mirror trembling stones, small, ordinary, yet wielding invisible power to guide the lost back to peace. We can emulate the Celts, turning everyday signals into modern trembling stones. A brief message, a small symbol, a kind gesture, all can be lifelines. The Celts' legacy isn't in lavish castles or golden hoards. It lives in mossy, trembling stones, oral tales by campfire smoke, the beat of hide drums, and chants under spring moonlight. These stories endure, not inked in books but carved in stone and etched in collective memory. Walking a fog-draped Irish field, seek the first trembling stone, touch it, and hear its rumble, the echo of an indomitable legacy. As night falls, close your eyes and picture yourself an ancient Celt, standing in a sea of fog, hand on a trembling stone, feeling history in its cracked surface. The final lesson is this: a legacy isn't just to behold but to touch and pass on. You too can be a modern trembling stone for others through empathy, encouragement, and simple yet meaningful acts. That rumble will echo forever through fog, through time, telling the story of resilience and survival's wit. As the fog over the Celtic fields fades under the silver moonlight, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine your diligent farmer, resolute in finding your way home through the thick white veil. Feel your hands gently brush the surface of a trembling stone. Hear the rumble hum, soft as a lullaby, guiding each step. Though mud clings to your boots and icy winds pierce your heart, you know you're safe, for the rumble bears witness. Fog is merely a curtain, unable to halt the steps of the steadfast. In that moment, the entire Celtic saga unfolds clearly. From early misty mornings when they first placed trembling stones along paths to keep their sheep from straying, to mystic rituals under the moon, where druids tapped sticks on stones, bridging earth and spirit. You hear the rumble blend with chants and the beat of hide drums, forming a symphony of fog and life. You grasp the Celts' unyielding spirit. They didn't conquer fog but learned to live with it, making it a companion. Now, Recall the moment when the warrior Cuchulain, lost in dense fog, thought all hope was gone, only for a trembling stone's rumble to guide him home. Or picture Enid, the mother searching for her daughter in a white sea, feeling each stone's rumble as a whisper to keep going, like you in daily life. When stuck, a wise word, a warm memory, or a familiar tune can light the way. The trembling stone's glow isn't harsh like a spotlight, but gentle and enduring like a flickering candle. Before drifting into peaceful sleep, let the image of trembling stones scattered across hills guide you through the fog of your soul. Anyone, anywhere, can craft their own modern trembling stone. A note pinned to a mirror, an app prompting you to pause and breathe, or a soothing song. We don't need literal fog to see the stone's value. In this moment, trust that a small signal can keep you safe and steady. The Celtic story isn't just an ancient legend, but a timeless spiritual legacy. When you wake, perhaps in a modern city aglow with lights, psychological fog, anxiety, pressure, exhaustion still lingers. Find your trembling stone, a simple habit, a kind word, a small act. When you touch it, hear its rumble, and know that, no matter the world's chaos, you're safe, with a path home. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Celtic fog. From trembling stones guiding paths to warrior tales, sacred rituals, and lessons of survival wit. If you loved this story, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Where would you place your own trembling stone in life? Perhaps at your desk, by your bedside, or anywhere you need a small signal to stay on course. Now, turn off the light. Let the fan's hum mimic the wind over Celtic fields. Close your eyes and sink into sleep. In your dreams, see the fog lift, hear the rumble whisper, and feel safe in the white sea. Good night. And don't lose your way in the fog, for you carry a trembling stone in your heart, guiding you to peace. Through our journey tracing the Celtic fog and trembling stones, we've learned that sometimes the simplest things, a stone, a faint sound, can lift spirits and guide through darkness. The Celts' timeless lesson teaches us not only patience, creativity, and collaboration, but also reminds us that when modern life grows too noisy and complex, a personal trembling stone can suffice. A kind word, a small cherished habit, or a beautiful memory sparking hope. If you're watching from the United States, share your story in the comments. What moment in your life was guided by a small thing through a fog of hardship? Where would you place your modern trembling stone, at your desk, bedside, or in a phone app? Don't hesitate to type it out, as every story could be a trembling stone for someone else. If you enjoyed this History Before Bedtime series, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch more captivating tales. Share this video with friends and family to spread the Celts' spirit of resilience, creativity, and unity. Thank you for watching. See you in the next enchanting historical adventure.